Ahoy pirates, welcome aboard as we dive into the ultimate Rogue Waters tips and tricks guide. Whether you're navigating the high seas or leading your pirate crew into battle, these strategies will help you dominate both ship and land combat, and I've broken them out into chapter markers for your convenience. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let's set sail starting with ship battles. Victory on the high seas depends on careful planning and understanding your ship's capabilities. However, keep in mind as this is a roguelite game, you're going to have a piece of ship vessel to start. Tip 1. Build capacity slots before buying cannon and module upgrades. When upgrading your ship, focus on increasing capacity first. This ensures you won't waste valuable resources on ship equipment that you can't even use yet. Tip 2. Avoid combat by taking out all enemy units. In some battles, you can completely avoid face-to-face combat by taking out all enemy units in the ship battle phase. This becomes more viable later in the game as you unlock better cannons and starting modules. Tip 3. Focus on destroying increased HP modules. If your strategy is to eliminate the enemy crew during ship battles, destroy the modules that grant increased HP first. This will lower their HP in real time and reduce the damage you need to deal with your cannons to finish them off. Tip 4. Different cannons for different targets. Not all cannons are created equal. Some target ship modules, others focus on enemy crew, and some do it all. Familiarize yourself with each cannon type and tailor your loadout based on the ships you'll face in upcoming raids. Tip 5. Use raid info to plan your cannon loadout. Before starting a raid, inspect what additional modules the enemy ships you'll encounter will be equipped with. If you see the ships will have extra buff modules, focus your initial cannons or the temporary ones you get from quest rewards to counter and eliminate them. Tip 6. Consider keeping some enemy ship modules intact. Some enemy ship modules offer buffs like healing after turn or increased armor, and these should be prioritized and destroyed. However, I like to leave the reinforced glass module that provides extra damage but reduces HP intact. I find it makes their crew easier to kill before their damage bonus becomes effective. Tip 7. Understand cannon damage ranges. Each cannon in Rogue Waters has its own damage range. Some offer consistent, reliable damage, while others have a chance to do massive damage, or none at all. You can see this information when targeting an enemy ship. Also, keep in mind that some cannons take a turn to come into range before they can be fired. Tip 8. Manage cannon command points. Command points determine how many cannon shots you can fire per turn, and there's 3 turns in total. You can increase your command points by upgrading them in your workshop. Be aware that some powerful cannons use 2 command points, while others, like the swivel gun, don't require any to fire. Tip 9. Equip mates modules for cannon fodder. Even if you don't plan on using your mates crew members in combat, equipping their ship module upgrades still makes them valuable as cannon fodder. Enemy ships may sometimes target them instead of your other critical ship modules, increasing your ship's overall survivability. Now let's talk about land battles. Managing your crew in combat is just as important as navigating the seas. Tip 10. Use secondary actions before ending your turn. Before you commit to your primary action, make sure to use your secondary actions like healing flask or item-based skills. These won't end your turn, so they're essential for maximizing your crew's effectiveness. Tip 11. Use ropes to traverse the battlefield. Ropes are a great way to traverse long distances without using action points. You can also swing from rope to rope, quickly positioning yourself behind enemy lines or avoiding trouble entirely. Keep an eye out for opportunities to use these ropes and gain the advantage. Tip 12. Fear bar. Exploit overdamage. Enemies in Rogue Waters have a fear bar that tracks their morale during battle. The best way to get them to surrender is by doing more damage than needed to finish them off. This is especially effective for your musketeers or other high damage output units. If an enemy has 1 HP left, hitting them for 5 will generate a ton of fear. Tip 13. Don't complete all actions at once. One of my favorite mechanics is that you don't need to use all of a single crew member's actions in one go. You can move one unit, switch to another, and then come back later. This gives you more tactical flexibility mid-battle. Tip 14. Using objects to break line of sight. Enemies like musketeers can be dangerous from afar. Hide behind objects to break their line of sight, or use abilities like the mermaid sea monster scream to disrupt them and waste their turn. Tip 15. Armor. Understanding how it works. Armor in this game absorbs damage, meaning you need to deal more damage than its value to harm your enemy. For example, if an enemy has 1 armor, you'll need to hit them for at least 2 damage to reduce their HP. Keep in mind that bleeding and burning effects can bypass armor entirely. On the other hand, negative armor will cause enemies to take extra damage, so a hit that normally deals 1 damage will deal 2 if they have a negative 1 armor debuff. Tip 16. Bouncing enemies off objects, and even your allies. Rogue Waters is all about positioning and movement. You'll deal the most damage by knocking enemies into walls, other enemies, or objects in the environment. If there's nothing around, you can even bounce enemies off your allies even though they will take some damage in doing so. However, if your ally has a backstabbing specialist trait, you'll be immune to the damage and actually boost the damage that they do receive. Tip 17. Environmental effects and movement. As you progress in Rogue Waters, you'll encounter new environmental effects on the battlefield like fire, slime, and tar. These can be dangerous, but here's the trick: you can only receive those debuffs if you end your turn in those tiles. Feel free to move through them without any worry as you position to attack your enemies. Tip 18. Sea monsters. Timing is everything. Calling in sea monsters like the Kraken can really turn the tide of battle. However, Abyssal Ether is rare to come by during raids, so be mindful how you use it and consider reserving it for the final boss battle. As you upgrade your sea monsters, they'll cost less ether, but remember you can only summon them once per battle no matter how much reserve ether you have. Use them wisely. Tip 19. Observing enemy crew and unit specific information. Make sure to reference the ship wheel icon at the start of each battle to observe all collected buffs both you and the enemy have. This information is crucial for planning your approach. You can also hover over enemies to gather more specific details such as their damage potential and most importantly their movement range. Knowing how far your enemy can move can help you time the best moment to engage. Tip 20. Movement is key for shop extortion. When visiting a shop during a raid, you'll have a chance to extort it for gear. Instead of killing all the enemy, the objective of these fights is to make it to the extraction point with any one of your characters before they wipe you out. For that reason, it's best to attempt these when you've either acquired a movement increasing item or have invested points into movement via your skill trees. Tip 21. Utilizing disengage. When you're engaged with an adjacent enemy, your movement will be severely decreased. The disengage mechanic provided by some skill trees, items, or ship modules allows you to freely use all of your movement without being fixed, and can be super helpful in pushing forward or falling back. Tip 22. Mates matter. Your mates are expendable units, so if you got a long or difficult battle ahead, you may consider throwing a few of them into the battle first to soften the enemy up before you send in your specialist. Tip 23. Change your difficulty level. If you're looking to spice things up a bit, you can easily adjust the difficulty levels of battles. Not only will you get more loot for more difficult levels, but you'll also get more EXP as well. But you'll want to find a good setting where you're not running out of fumes by the end of the raid. These more difficult levels unlock as you progress in the story. Your crew is the heart of your ship. Managing them effectively will make all the difference in battle. Tip 24. Rest your crew. As you go through raids, your crew will take damage, and you'll ultimately need to rest them between missions by building up your sick bay and swapping them out for your reserved recruits. That way, you reduce downtime and keep your best specialists ready to fight. Tip 25. Look at new character stats. Each time you return from a raid, you'll get a new pool of specialists to recruit from. Check out their skill trees carefully as they will be randomized each time, which I think is awesome. Some will have diverse, complementary abilities that make them extremely powerful, while others will have overlaps that make them less effective. It's always exciting when you find a new crew member with skills that synergize well. Tip 26. Be on the lookout for the Combat Medic skill tree. If you're lucky enough to find a specialist with the Combat Medic skill tree, they'll gain the ability to heal themselves or a nearby ally. This can be extremely helpful in battle, especially in tight situations where you need to keep your crew members alive. Finally, let's talk about upgrades. Both your crew and your ship need the right gear and improvements to survive the treacherous seas. Tip 27. Understanding items and their effects. When upgrading, keep in mind that some ship upgrades affect specific units like mates only, while others impact the entire crew or just Captain Cutter. Make sure you're optimizing for the right bonuses before heading into battle. Tip 28. Equip items after receiving them. One small thing that can easily slip through the cracks. After buying new equipment at shops or getting them as a quest reward, make sure to equip it. While the game does show you your loot after battles that you can easily equip from there, it doesn't automatically equip purchases or quest rewards, so double check before you head out as you won't be able to put on equipment while in combat. Tip 29. Abandon raids early for better healing. Rogue Waters is a roguelite game, meaning you're going to lose a bunch early on by design, but that only makes the progression much more satisfying. It can sometimes be more strategic to abandon a raid early if your core specialists are resting. You'll still get some loot and you can dive into a fresh raid sooner with a fully healed crew. Tip 30. Shop around for material chests. If you're sitting on extra gold during your raid, make sure to check out the shops as they sometimes sell glass and blueprint chests you can end up redeeming at the end. It's an easy and often overlooked way to convert your spare coin into much needed materials. But that's it for my Rogue Waters tips and tricks. I hope this guide helps you conquer the high seas and become the ultimate pirate captain. If you found these tips useful, make sure to like and subscribe, and comment below with your favorite Rogue Waters tactic. See you next time, mateys.